The topic I thought was, is life worth living, and we were just going to talk about it.
Okay. So is life worth living? I have 3 key points. One of them was love, which is, I guess you can tie that into religion, which I don't want to preach, actually. Well, basically the positive and the negative. And I suppose if I really had to choose, I mean, obviously, not obviously, but I'll shoot for the positive. I'll go ahead and call that love. One of the strongest reasons that life is worth living is the connection with friends, family, people that have kids, which I don't, but stuff like that was one point. Love. The second one was, well, what the hell is that statistic? 1 in what, 4 billion? The chances of being born? It's simply like, why the fuck not? Like, I'm already here, basically. And if you want to use this big number of the odds of us being born, in that case, I'll go ahead and say, fuck it, it's a gift. Even to be in good health. People that have mental defects or like physical handicaps, it's like, dude, that is not the case with any of us, as far as I can tell. I'd be a little grateful, kind of, just put it bluntly, and that's the second reason. I suppose gift, the word gift, it's a blessing, if you will.
So in terms of, you were saying, life is a gift, right? We know that life is a gift. It is given to us without expecting anything in return other than living, right? But then again, we didn't ask for this gift, right? The first thought that came into my mind when you said it was a really cheesy Kung Fu Panda quote. It was the first time I heard it was when the master, he said, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. So it is what you make of it, but then there's also outlying factors that a lot of us don't take into account on the everyday situations.
On the one hand, yes, it is a gift, and on the other hand, yes, it is a gift that is not, that we didn't necessarily ask for, but I mean, my viewpoint on life is that its value is not necessarily that it has inherent value. It's the value that you give it. It's. I mean, I personally believe in radical free agency, in that, like, we have the choice, we have the power, we have the choice to do anything, create our own value systems, create what is valuable to us, what is not valuable to us, and choose, what effect certain causes have on us, and then we at some level are able to choose the consequences. But yeah, so the thing is that the whole life is meaningless thing, it is true on the level that life inherently by itself has no meaning, but that people often take it to the point of it's meaningless. This is kind of not. It's kind of a false equivalency and not necessarily true, because it's only meaningless in the sense that it's a blank slate, and then we have the power to put whatever meaning we want to it. By saying it meaningless in a different sense, in that other different sense, of that nihilistic sense, it's basically kind of like erasing the slate, and that's actually not just erasing the slate, but just absolutely completely doing away with the slate.
Yeah, when you say blank slate, I try to say something about freedom, and you mentioned that it is what you make it. I suppose that's the freedom I was talking about. There's beauty in the fact that you can make it what you want.
I had an interesting question that I wanted to ask. So the freedom to choose, and like life's what you make it. So what about the freedom to create another life and then doing so, right? And then leading or projecting that or extrapolating. Okay, everybody's doing that. World population 7.7 billion. We're choosing to create more and more and more. in hopes of making it happy or in hopes of creating a family setting, which has become sort of like a traditional thing, right? But like, at what point does that freedom start inhibiting other people's freedom to live?
I think actually it's kind of been doing that from the beginning, and that's where another aspect of our ability to choose comes in. It's like the thing about ethics and just anything constructed by man is that it's not eternally fixed. It's like it really does have to depend on the situation. So, our ethics, we have the power to change our ethics and, say what's right and say what's wrong, and then, for these reasons and that reasons, and the situation's changing, and so our ethics have to change and our behavior has to change, and I mean, technically speaking, in creating more mouths to feed, and then inhibiting, being an inhibition to the freedom of others, that's actually kind of always been happening.
So do you know of, I believe it's Maslow's pyramid of human needs? So like at the very base, you've got, just utmost survival. So whether you have food, water, shelter, and then I think the next rung up is, I want to say, the idea of being loved or like community kind of thing. And I think I'm missing one actually. And then you've got something called self-esteem, and then you have self-actualization. So, like, at what point do you get to each of those? So, like, in third world countries where, they have the minimal resources and you're living day-to-day needs, like, am I even going to live tomorrow kind of thing? Like, at that point, you're in, like, the low tier. You're not going to be worrying about, like, self-actualization, like, and what am I doing in history is going to matter. It's, am I going to be alive tomorrow? And then, like, the next rung up, you're going to be going, okay, well, am I surrounded by people that I care about in this life? And then you go to self-esteem, you're like, okay, I can do this. And then the actualization is like, oh, like, what am I here on this earth for? What am I doing? Meaning of life, is it worth living kind of thing? And what they've often seen is that normally you don't start getting into terms of mental illness and like things of depression and anxiety unless you have the first, like the lower tiers on that pyramid, like completely full. Like, you won't actually have to worry about that because you're so concerned of staying alive physically.
And where are you on that example?
On the pyramid?
Correct.
I'm probably in the one of the last two rungs. Whereas that's self-esteem and self-actualization. Struggled with self-esteem a lot in my life. I used to have like a huge weight issue, skin issue, had a hunch. Wasn't very popular, and then just going through life, I got just depressed, and then I started thinking about things very cynically, and a lot of the past life experiences. Like, I won't get involved, but like rough childhood, rough growing up, and then just continuing to get bullied throughout high school and all that. But just having all those not opportunities, but all those experiences shape my mindset, where I'd focus more logically than emotionally because, well, emotions were difficult to comprehend, and logic, is like, for example, like English is like, oh, what's your interpretation versus, math and science. This is the interpretation. Like, there is, 2 + 2 = 4, right? You can't get 2 + 2 = 5. That's not how we made math work, right? So I focused more on logic because it made more sense to me rather than trying to comprehend these feelings and emotions that I was having and trying to decipher what this meaning was. And as I got older, I started focusing more on that. I started looking to music, mainly rock, hardcore, heavy metal, where they delve into this sort of self-hate, hatred of the world, and like they'd be asking questions: why is the world this way? Like, if there is a God, then why is there war? Famine, death, plague, all these other bad things. Or if there's, whether like they openly talk about like, hey, sometimes I hate myself, and like they're expressing these things, and like, oh, I don't know if you feel it, but like this is how I feel, and then other people coming together saying like, yeah, me too. Like, this isn't just a me thing, and so it opened up a world for studying of like more of a psychological needs in a community to bring those ideas in and other people to share and to grow and get better. But then also it opens up the idea and the pathway that some people are just going to continue down that path. So a few of the bands that I listen to kind of pushed me to start thinking more radically, and I'd say more just looking more at life in a cynical way at a young age versus very hopeful as like a lot of younger people do. Like, oh, there's so much out in the world, like look at all these opportunities I can have. And then you start looking at statistics, you start looking at other people, you know, like you brought up, like, oh, the chances of even being born, and then you got to look at the statistics of, oh, the chances of being born in a well-off state, meaning like, oh, is your country doing well? What's the GDP? You know, the chances of going to school, going to a secondary school, an even graduate school, obtaining a job where you have a salary that'll let you live life exceptionally well, or just by means of getting by. And you start thinking about, okay, where am I in that? And then you look at us in the U.S. and you go, okay, so far I've already gotten a pretty solid lotto ticket, right? You know, in the U.S. Then it turns into a genetic gene pool kind of thing. It's like, oh, was I blessed with genetics? Was I blessed with financial stability? What section you are in, like a class system? 7.7 billion people as of today, or as of 2019 in December. That's a really, really low statistic. So, like, how significant is my life? Am I probably going to be known on a world stage? Probably not. Even in a country stage, state stage, city, town. It's more often than not, it's probably just going to be the people that you meet in person. And then, but nowadays you have like social media, so you can just become famous overnight on social media, and then all of a sudden, like, everyone knows your name across the globe. But what does it mean? Like, did I bring any meaning to it? Is it worth all the trouble that I'm getting? Is it worth the financial? Is it worth the resources? And is it worth the chemical reactions that you're even getting? Right? So for me, like, is life worth living? Like, biologically, probably not. There's 7.7 billion people out there. So, like, we already have, like, doppelgangers and that idea where, like, oh, someone looks pretty much exactly like you. You know, they probably have similar genetic code. Obviously, it's never going to be the same, right? Unless you're an identical twin. And even then, you've got the psychological differences from being raised differently. But you still have, like, that twin connection. Like, I was like, oh, you're pretty much, you have the same genetic code. So, like, that's why, like, in, like, the futuristic movies, they'll say, like, oh, we just need to have enough people to restart the population with a diverse enough gene pool so as to protect from genetic mutations. So, like, yeah, like, very pessimistic, futuristic lookings, but, like, we don't need that many people to survive. Like, or, like, if you look at, even from, like, a religious point of view, it's said that, you know, we all came from the same two people, and yet now we're, like, super diverse. So, like, did he create more people, or are we all just descendants of, you know, Adam? Ha, 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 ha. I don't know what your guys' take on that is, but, like, biologically speaking, like, I don't think that life in itself is worth living. It's just, you know, a means to an end. You know, you live life, you mate, and you die. As far as, you know, like, we got to put meaning into it, and that meaning comes from, I feel, the chemical stimulations we get from our body, and everybody is, of course, different. So some people are going to be more prone to happiness, potentially, given their situations, and then given their life situations, but then also their chemical situation in their body, which is how you get some things like depression, anxiety, and even such things as, like, schizophrenia. Like, everybody's going to be different. Like, and it's all based on, like, the release of those chemicals. Well, I was saying, strictly, like, biologically, like, no one person really needs to be alive. Like, the genetic code in 7.7 billion people, like, and plus what they're doing with gene therapy and gene treatment, like, potentially, like, they're going to be, like, what is it, like, handcrafting test tube babies to have certain traits. So, like, you can, like, pick your baby's eye color, you can pick all these other things kind of thing. Like, test tube babies. At least that's what the sci-fi idea is behind it, but, like they're starting to, like, map more and more genetic code. So, like, biologically speaking, like, to me, it's just, like, makes no difference. I feel statistically insignificant amongst the world. But when it comes to in terms of like spirituality, like some people say like, oh, your energy, like the way you come across, the way your life experiences has said certain things. Like that's why we have say like legends like, oh, these famous people, like they're famous for a reason, like they did something to stand out from everybody else. Okay, but like that's like 1% of the population. What about the 99% of the people that are ordinary? What's their purpose in life? Other than to make the people who are extraordinary seem extraordinary.
I have something stupid to say. Talk about the other 99%, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that everyone's parents were fucking extraordinary, right? To that 99%, to someone else, like someone is extraordinary. Like someone might see you as extraordinary, and this fellow here, not here, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to be famous for someone to think that you're extraordinary. That's what I was gonna say. Again, this biological stuff, this science stuff. It's to me, it's not horse shit, but it means nothing to me for certain. I don't deny it, but it's just my whole mindset is so into all that spiritual stuff. It's somewhere else entirely, the way that I'm looking at it. And I don't wish to counter anything I have. And in fact, I'm not capable right now of even really elaborating on my stance. Because I think everything's... I like to keep things simple at this point. I think we're all connected. And there's importance in that. But
Mm-hmm.
Let's let John speak.
Okay. This is coming from a philosophy standpoint, but I even question your use of necessary. I mean, technically, there's nothing that's necessary. Absolutely nothing is necessary. I mean, none of us need to exist. None of this needs to exist. This video doesn't need to exist.
Yes, it does. Oh, I want to say something random, like meaning and meaninglessness, right? I think that, or positive and negative, I always think that, both sides, both potentials, the duality, I think it's fucking important. I just want to go on and say that, yeah, meaningless plays a role in my life. It's kind of useful. Like, I need to filter through bullshit. Stuff that I like or don't like. It's a very important part of my life, but it's not everything. Oh, it's always both. Like, for me personally to walk through that statement or that train of thought that life is meaningless, I've definitely been there before, surely. We already discussed all that suicide stuff. Like, I've been through that phase where I fully believed in it, and I always thought, yeah. You fucking go to school, you fucking go to work, and then you get your fucking family. That's it. And they fucking your whole life's worth, and then you just pass whatever's left over in the will, and so on. I thought that was,
And then what's the point, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've walked through that before.
Well, I mean, to go even further, what's the point of anything? Because eventually the sun's going to expand and absorb the Earth, and then, I mean, what trace of anything we had here is not going to exist anymore, so... Oh, it's...
Very, very distant future.
Very distant future, but still, it will happen.
Let's make a video on that. You suspect
That's an astrological physics video right there.
Yeah.
You need to do some research
Let me
on
attack
that.
this fucking guy.
Uh-huh.
So, what are we gonna say again? That do you believe that life is not worth living? Is that safe to say?
Biologically, yes, but like from like a mentality, like a spiritual point of view, like I'm still trying to find meaning in my life, but like I've kind of given up trying to be like, oh, like this is my purpose, yada yada. It was like, nah, life is what it is. I'm just trying to find things that make me happy and the people that I care about happy.
It's this love thing. So I wanted to ask you about your love for your family or was some romantic interests. Would that make you happy? Finding a nice lady or a nice partner, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Does this not help?
I think it would, but then once every time I think about it, I think it's like, oh, am I just looking for a chemical release? Like, what is my true want with this person? Do I care about them spiritually? Am I just looking for oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin? Is it just contact deprivation? Abandonment. So like, it's like, oh, putting all this time and effort into something and then having it just mean nothing in the end. Like, you know someone for 3 years and putting all this time and effort, and then all of a sudden you don't talk anymore.
Oh, fuck that. I thought we all knew. We're talking about facts and logic, right? Like, nothing lasts forever. And I thought that's what gave the beauty to things, that they don't last forever. So you make the most of it because you know it won't be there. And therein lies another, not meaning, but a reason to be fully engaged in the present moment and appreciate it for what it's worth.
Perhaps.
Or something's better than nothing. You fucking go get as much of whatever you can out of moments in life. But go ahead and say that awesome line about that love and chemicals.
Oh, I mean, it's like biologically, love is just chemicals. It's just reacting. Everybody reacts differently to those chemicals. So serotonin and dopamine, you know, like when you do something right or something good, like chocolate, you're like, oh, this tastes good. Why do I want to eat more of it? Well, chocolate's a natural source of dopamine, which is why a lot of people tend to eat chocolate when they're sad. Or people like hugging or physical affection because like your body releases a chemical called oxytocin every time you touch someone. And then that's why a lot of people have that honeymoon phase when they're first getting together it's like, oh, I'm so in love with you, yada, yada, yada. And then you meet a married couple who's been married for like 20 plus years, and it's just a matter of just like, oh, you know, we don't have sex anymore, or just like, you know, we just do this. We're like, we don't, just like, so they develop further interests in life. So it's like, oh, it's like golf, or like they have their kids and stuff like that. It's like, oh, we have the highest release of all of those chemicals the first time that you have intercourse with someone, right? And then every time after that, it gets a lower and lower and lower amount, which is why some people tend to, well, have multiple partners, and then other people, you know, like they want that knowing, but then you have that more spiritual connection. And I honestly don't think I have enough information, like personal experience-wise, to like go off of that, but like based on the observations I've made of other people, like, oh man, like, it's not that cool.
Well, in the situations where people have been in, you know, happy relationships for a long time, actually, their reason for staying isn't like one reason the entire time. It's actually changing, and so, I mean, if you're looking for that one purpose, that one reason why I'm here, I'm sorry, you're not gonna find it. But it's I mean, relationships in general are about people growing with each other and going along the same path with each other, and I mean, what's around the path will change, what the situation will change, and the reasons for being in the relationship will change, and it's like, okay, like, I mean, not to like, I mean, not to attack you too much, because I mean, you know, I've been in that place too, where just I've been looking for something that, you know, that one eternal thing, that one unchanging eternal thing that you latch onto. That's why there's religion. That's why some people fall into, like, you know, cult mentalities and whatnot, and I mean, sometimes to their well-being and sometimes to their detriment, but yeah, it's just this. I mean, I guess I've adopted that kind of scientific viewpoint that there is, except for the fact that there is nothing eternal. There is nothing that is like everlasting. It's just this. You just have to find the reason that suits for the time being, and
let me attack this guy some more. I did want to ask this. I had this planned out. Oh, it sounds so mean. If life has no meaning, life's not worth living. What has prevented you from just killing yourself? And I'm not saying you should. There is no nice way to put it, but I'm curious as to what your answer is to the question.
personally, like that's something I've actually struggled with is suicide. So I've sometimes just called it cowardice. Like I don't have the balls to kind of do it. You know, it's like to follow through with what I believed in. Like I talked myself up. You know, it's like, oh, I talk a big game. Like, yeah, life is meaningless. Why don't you just do it? Why don't you just end it? And then like this empathetic and sympathetic side would come out of me. Like, what am I doing? Kind of thing. Like when it came to like, oh, how am I leaving this world behind? Like, it was like when I'm just looking after myself. It's like I don't want to hurt anymore, kind of thing, but also don't want to hurt those around me. But also, like, why should I care? But then also, like, I'm a neat freak. So like, how can I do this in a clean situation without having to leave so much of a burden behind on somebody else, right? Like being so much of a burden to other people or feeling that way at least, and then leaving such an even bigger burden after going, right? So like sometimes it's just like, oh, I mean, I might as well just live for whatever reason and just like placate these people. Like, I don't want to be a burden on anyone. So like, I just want to like exist, but like for myself. I don't want to have to like exist for other people. And so like if I'm hurting, like why should my hurt have to affect you? But then like I know for a fact, based on like what people have told me, that kind of guilt trip me, like, well, don't do that. I would be sad. Like I would be hurt. Okay, like yeah, but you wouldn't be hurt for that long. Eventually, you know, life goes on.
Yeah, that's
So
what
people
I used to say.
people die all the time. Like, so what? It's like, oh, like you made such an impact on me, kind of thing. It's like, okay, yeah, and what? It's more of just like I'd be worried about like the financial burdens. It's like my family, you know, like they want to live life, all that jazz. But like, okay, so what if I don't want to? Okay, well, it still costs money to clean up a body. Someone's got to do it. Someone's gonna get paid, right? Someone's got to clean up all the blood. And then if you ruin any materials in the path, like I mean, that's just one more thing. Or you're affecting other people. It's like, oh, like you shoot yourself in the face. We're like, oh, gun control. Oh, you take pills, whatever. It's just like, oh, more drug control. So like you're affecting other people's freedom and how they might want to do it. So like there are certain things that I do care about, but then like, do I care about them enough to go on living? I don't know. Like I still want to care, but I still have that like that mindset of like, it's not worth living, if that makes sense. I have all of these very cynical ideas that I've portrayed, and then I always also have this other side of me that says, but you're still human, you know? I still have this empathy in the back of my head saying like, I understand how you would feel, which is why I've been so torn. You know, it's just these two contradicting ideas at war with each other where it's like, I don't want to fight, I don't want to do these things, but at the same time, like that's life. You want to feel good, you want to feel better. Like inherently, your body wants more of that dopamine, that oxytocin, that serotonin, right? It is the most addictive drug, in my opinion. Like you can list out all the other ones, but like that one to me, like people say like, oh, love makes you do crazy things, or like people do crazy things for love. Like people have heard that phrase in like plenty of movies. It sounds almost cliche, I want to say, but no, like I understand. Like I'm a hypocrite. I know that. Like, but I find that like if you're not a hypocrite, like you're not really like living life. Like everyone in life is a hypocrite. And to say otherwise is, well, you're a hypocrite in a sense. Like to say that you're not a liar. Like everyone lies at some point. Whether they're big lies, little white lies. We lie to ourselves. We lie to everyone. It's just a matter of what we say in those lies.
I'm proud to be a hypocrite because it just shows that I was willing to
Admit.
jump on either side of this duality. I was a little more fluid, like, well, fuck it. I mean, I don't want to stay in one place. Like, how am I supposed to learn if I stay on one side of the coin too long? And if I change my mind, fuck it, call me a hypocrite, you know? That's the way I see it. I see hypocrisy as just like an exploration into duality.
Well, and then bring up philosophy. This happened. This kind of dynamic happens in Hegel's phenomenology of spirit, where basically there's this being and is just trying to figure out what is most important. It's like what is most important. It's like being, and then it's being, and then self, and then there's a master slave relationship, and then there's then eventually evolves into like, God worship, and then the categorical imperative, and just trying to find that thing that's eternal, but it always clashes with reality, and I think being a hypocrite is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you've gotten to a point where a person's gotten to a point where reality is clashing with what they believe at that point in time, and so the question becomes, how does one kind of evolve their understanding to what reality presents itself with? But importance and celebrity, it's just the problem with like emphasizing all of that is that it's all kind of relative. It just these people have celebrity status, but what ultimately matters, at least in my point of view, is that do you find it within yourself reasonable enough to give that importance to them? And for a lot of celebrities, I'd actually say, no, they're not worth my time.
Like, I mean, like I had $0, I was living at home, kind of thing, and it was just like, oh man, I don't want to be in this mindset anymore, because like I was worried, like I scared my family, I scared myself, because I got to that point, like, and like I said, like it was cowardice, maybe it was like that 1% hope, but like things could get better, even though I have all this, like these facts and things that I've literally gone on like a mission to hunt down, and in the end of it, it was just like, you know what, ignorance is bliss, and I wish I would have stayed ignorant, and some of those matters, so I didn't have to think about it as much. So now I honestly, I just try not to think about it. So like when you asked me to do this show, I was just like, yeah, I mean, I'll relapse for that. It sounds like a good cause. It sounds like a good way. It's like, make it one of those, yearly things. Just sit there and see how far I've come. This is the mindset that I used to have, and like I still have, remnants. Obviously, like it was a huge part of who I was, and I'm just trying to get better from that. I think, which is like that was my mindset coming into this video. Is like, I'm gonna talk about all the stuff like, is life meaningless? Yes, but also I'm trying to find the meaning in it that makes it meaningful to me, and like honestly, like fuck what everybody else has to say. Like I'm just gonna try to find that for me. If that makes sense. Like biologically speaking, like I'd say, like my closing statement is that biologically speaking, like life is meaningless. Like biologically, like I don't think like my genetic code is gonna be like the next big thing. So like I'm worried more of the meaningfulness in my mental state and my spiritual state, how I'm affecting others and how it's making me feel personally. So like I don't care if the world is doing all these things. If it makes me feel bad, like I shouldn't care about it then. I'm just going to focus on the things that make me feel good and the people around me feel good. And like to the point of like we can continue to live life and be quote unquote happy. Yeah, but like my thing is like I'm trying. I'm seeking the worth. Whether or not I find it to its true potential, that's only time will tell. So it's just life is the journey. To say that exactly how your life is gonna end, well, I think that's bullshit, honestly.
I do have a closing statement. It's a cliche, but I think it's true. It's just life is what you make of it.
I'm sorry.
We're making jokes now, right? Life is like a box of chocolates.
Shut up, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yep.
How's that for?